Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander Score Studio. Welcome to the show. So today's deck tech is going to be built around Henzie Toolbox Torre, and oh my goodness, is this one off the wall? A 3/3 double rogue for 3 mana in Jund. Each creature spell you cast with mana value 4 or greater has Blitz. The Blitz cost is equal to its mana cost. Basically, you can choose to cast that spell for its Blitz cost. If you do, it gains haste, and when it dies, draw a card, sacrifice at the end step. So yeah, you can swing right away. You can get value as well, replacing it. On top of that, though, Blitz cost you pay costs 1 less for each time you've cast your commander for the command zone this game. That is huge. That is massive. That is insane. All of a sudden, again, we can blitz out creatures and we can reduce their costs down to nearly nothing. This deck is different than the pre-con in that we're going to focus on using and abusing that as much as we can and utilizing other ways to drop down the cost of our cards. So we're casting card after card after card, value after value after value, just decimating our opponents. What's not to love about that? Especially what's not to love about the budget of this deck, though. Every single card in the deck outside of the commander, which is barely outside of that, is 50 cents or less. Henzie, just 9 cents above. Regardless, an incredibly budget-friendly deck. According to Moxfield, $18.11 currently at the time of this recording. And keep in mind that does not include shipping or basics, but you might already have those basics, or maybe from a friend you can get them, or your LGS, or just buy them in bulk. Regardless, we're going to be going through the tactics in this episode and talking about how this deck works and how we're going to win. So, first up, tactic number 1, less is more. Again, our commander can reduce our creature's costs again and again and again as we cast it more and more throughout the game. We also have some helpers as well, like Goblin and Archomancer. Each spell you cast that's red or green costs 1 less to cast. Helm Awakening helps everyone, but it's going to help us the most. Spells cost 1 less to cast. Again, this blanket just, hey, everything costs less, can be absolutely huge, and we can use and abuse that very easily. Thunderscape Familiar, a great one as well. 1/1 first strike. Well, that's okay, but who cares? Black and green spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, so that is what we care about. Hazaret's Monument, reducing the cost of our red creature spells. On top of that, whenever we cast any creature spell, we can discard a card. If we do, draw a card. Basically, free rummaging every single time we're casting creatures. What's not to love? Honest Rutstain enters the battlefield. Bring back a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So that's some nice value right there. More importantly, though, creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. That is absolutely huge. Just every single creature cheaper for us to cast. Defiler of Flesh can help us out in a different way. As this cost cast black permanent spells, you may pay 2 life. Those spells cost black less to cast. But if you pay life this way, this effect reduces only amount of black mana you pay. So basically, kind of like Phyrexian mana-ish. Can help us with that at least. When you cast a black permanent spell as well, target creature control gets +1 and gains message all turn, which can be quite nice too. Defiler of Instinct, basically exact same thing with that, you know, Phyrexian-ish mana, but in red. Top of that, when you cast a red permanent spell, 1 damage to any target. Goreclaw can help us out with the big creatures. Power 4 or greater creatures cost 2 less cast for us. On top of that, whenever this attacks, each creature control of power 4 or greater gets +1 in trample as well. Crows and Drover helps with really big creature spells too. Creature spells you play with converted mana cost 6 or greater cost 2 less to play, and we've got a good amount of those too. Umori enters the battlefield. We choose a card type. We're going to choose creature. Cost 1 less to cast. Every single one of them do. It would be a nice companion, but we're not going all in on all creatures. That being said, next up, Ezroot Channeler can help us out with our creatures even further. Creature spells you cast cost X less to cast for X the amount of life you gain this turn. That can be quite a bit in combination with some other things, but yeah, at the very least, tap to gain 2 life. And then there's Crick, Son of Yawgmoth. Speaking of Phyrexian mana, for each black and a mana cost, you can pay 2 life rather than pay that mana. So yeah, basically, all those black pips are now just free. Well, at the cost of life, but basically free. Top that when you play a black spell, you get a counter on this, and it's got lifelink, which is quite nice. Moving on to tactic number 2, Mana Madness. Yeah, on top of reducing things, we've also got ways to produce an absurd amount of mana so quickly our opponent's heads will spin. Sentinel, Hierophants. Creatures you control have tap, add green. Every single one of our creatures now is a mana dork. This is absolutely huge for us. Speaking of huge, Cambridge's Acolyte. The more and more green devotion we have in play, the more and more green pips, the more this taps for. So yeah, we can get this out. We can just blitz this out, have it tap for a ton. Well, more than what we paid for it. Solemn Simulacrum can actually be a free card for us at a certain point. ETB, go get a land. Top of that, when it dies, draw a card. So again, if we blitz this, let's draw 2 cards instead of 1. Elena, Kessick Trapper. This can tap an absurd amount of mana. Tapped amount of red equal to the greatest power among creatures you control that enter the battlefield this turn. We've got some really heavy hitters, so this can tap for 8 a lot. Speaking of which, Big Horner Rancher. 2/5 Vigilant. Tap at amount of green equal to the greatest power among creatures you control, which again can be massive. On top of that, if we need to actually gain some life, sacrifice this to gain life equal to the greatest toughness too. Depthlim Ritualist. With all these creatures going here, there, and everywhere, hitting our graveyard, this can really take advantage of them. Tap at X mana of any one color, X the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Speaking of creatures, again, we're not fully creature-based, but still, mostly creatures. You can't cast non-creature spells. Aw, that's okay. On top of that, though, whenever you tap a land for mana, add 1 mana of any type that land produces. This can give us an absurd boost of mana. We can actually utilize our creatures in mana in a different way. Eudora Grave Gardener. Whenever the non-token creature control dies, you may return to the battlefield face down under your control. It's a forest. So we get all these creatures going into play, dying, blitzing, going to play, dying, drawing cards. Then all of a sudden, we also get to turn them into lands, basically turning creatures into ramp. Next up, Elvish Aberration. We can force cycle away early if we need to, or, yeah, play it, tap for 3 green mana. Greater Tanuki, we can channel it away to go get a basic into play tap, or have a 6/5 Trampler. Regal Behemoth, a 5/5 Trampler. Enters the battlefield, become the Monarch. It's going to be a very aggressive deck, so good luck taking that Monarch from us, and if you do, we're coming back for you. Where you tap a land for mana while you're the Monarch, you double up that mana, essentially additional mana. Beanstalk Giant, you can actually use it as an adventure to go get a basic into play, or, I mean, on top of it too, get this into play, and its power toughness equal number of lands you control can be a really heavy hitter for us. Next up, tactic number 3, Dig Down, because again, on top of our commanders blitzing and giving us that extra value when those creatures die, we've got other ways to take advantage of it too, like Evolutionary Leap. Pay a single green mana, sacrifice a creature, reveal until you hit a creature, goes in your hand, rest goes on the bottom of your library. Being able to just say, you know what, I blitz this creature out, let's sacrifice that for some value, maybe after I swing with it, whatever I'm going to do with it. All of a sudden I draw a card and I get to reveal at the top until I hit a creature. 2 for the price of 1, what's not to love about that? Liliana Standard Bearer. Flash enters the battlefield, draw a card with X number of creatures that died under your control this turn. Again, we can have some very explosive and game-ending turns. We can take advantage of that by having this come into play when those creatures are dying. Next up, Midnight Reaper. Whenever a non-token creature control dies, 1 damage to you, draw a card. 1 damage is no big deal at all. We've also got life gain as well, so we can just, you know, just offset that when we need to. Tallyman of Nurgle. Speaking of life lost, though, at the beginning of your end step, if a creature died this turn, you draw a card, lose 1 life. That's nice. More importantly, though, if 7 or more creatures died this turn, draw 7, lose 7. Again, we can have some really explosive, crazy turns. So 7, we can pretty easily get there once we're set up properly. Dimir Houseguard, yet another way to get value out of our creatures. Sacrifice creature, regenerate this one, so we can actually force that, you know, blitz value to happen right away instead of having to wait to the end step. And we can actually transmute this to actually tutor up things if we need that instead. Erebos Black card, and when we are sacrificing those creatures, when they die, we can pay 2 life. If we do, draw a card. This can also be a heavy hitter too. 5/6 indestructible if we've got that devotion. We can also sacrifice creatures too to take out other ones as well. Garna Bloodfist of Keld. Creature control dies, draw a card if it was attacking. Otherwise, 1 damage each opponent. Either way is actually very good for us. Yeah, take out your opponents if you need to. Or, yeah, attack with your creatures, sacrifice them in combat, or have them taken out in combat. Be able to get value out of them in that way. Kethek Crucible Goliath. Beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, reveal cards to the top of your library until you reveal a non-legendary creature card, lesser mana value. Put it right on the battlefield. The rest of the bottom of your library, random order. So, yeah, blitz something out. It's going to be sacrificed anyways. Stack the triggers in the way that you need to make it so that, you know what, I'll sacrifice it in this way, and then I'll reveal to replace it instead of just losing it forever. Then there's Shadowheart, Dark Justicar, pay 2 mana, essentially tap, sacrifice another creature, draw X, where X is that creature's power. This can be an absurd card draw engine for us. Speaking of value engines, though, Sloppity Bile Piper, pay 2, tap, sacrifice a creature. So again, maybe that creature we blitzed out. The next creature spell you cast this turn has Cascade. So much value to be had from there. Speaking of value, though, Moldervine Reclamation. Any of our creatures die. Gain 1 life, draw a card again. Pad your life total, it's very nice, but more importantly, again, draw a card. Basically, doubling up on that blitz draw, that can be absolutely huge. Azoni Thousand-Eyed, so much value to be had here, too. Enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 black and green inside creature token for each creature card in your graveyard. Again, our graveyard is going to be chock full of creatures, so a massive amount of tokens to be made with this. On top of that, a great sacrifice outlet, pay 2 mana, essentially sacrifice a creature, gain 1 life, draw a card. Overlord Observer, just free value to be had with this one throughout the game. Whenever a creature control of toughness 4 or greater dies, draw a card. A lot of our creatures meet that requirement. Tree Shaker Chimera is one of them at 8/5. All creatures able to block it do so when it dies, draw 3 cards. Can be a great way to, well, in one way, kind of like get our team through on an opponent because they have to block this instead of all of our other things, which is nice. On top of that, it can be card draw for us. Again, draw 3. And it can be like a mini board wipe in a way. Again, 8 damage across, however many blockers it has. We can take out quite a few things with this. Now, as good as all these cards are, there is one, in my opinion, that stands above the rest, and that is the Golden Pig of this deck, the #1 card out of 99, which is Bringer of the Last Gift. The spice level on this is absurd. 6/6 flyer for 8 mana, but again, with our commander and our other, cost reducers, it can be a lot less than that, down to just 2 mana potentially. Enters the battlefield if you cast it. Each player sacrifices all other creatures they control. Then each player returns all creature cards from their grave to the battlefield that were put there, that weren't put there from the battlefield, essentially. So basically, it's kind of like Living Death. You swap the graveyard out with the creatures in play, and your opponents maybe don't have, a chock full graveyard of creatures. You do, though, because you've been blitzing creatures out left and right. All of a sudden, you get all those creatures back permanently, and your opponents are in big trouble. Yeah, the amount of value you can get out of this is absurd. The amount of game-ending potential this has too is also absurd. Definitely, in my opinion, worthy of the title of the Golden Pig. Next up, tactic number 5, bring it back. And bring it back we shall. So much value with Riveteer's Ascendancy. Enchant for 3 mana and Jund. Whenever you sacrifice a creature, you may return target creature card with lesser mana value from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Do this only once each turn. Well, once each turn is still a lot of value to be had. Getting creatures out, sacrificing them to give that blitz cost potentially, and bringing back another creature permanently, that is huge. Or you can just bring back everything at once with Empty the Catacomb. Sorcery for 4 mana. Everyone brings back every creature card in their graveyard back to their hand. So, yeah, set yourself up to cast more and more creature spells in that turn. Absolutely crazy turns that we have with this. Garner the Blood Flame. Hey, a great way to do this in a single turn with a creature that helps out in other ways too. 3/3 Human Warrior Flash. Other creatures we control have haste. That's already huge too. Enters the battlefield, bringing back every creature card in your graveyard that put there from anywhere this turn. That is a massive effect to give us back a lot of things. Underworld Sarah is a great creature for us as well. 6/6 Hound for 5 mana. Can't be blocked except by 3 or more creatures. Cards in graveyards can be target spells or abilities, so that's nice to protect them there. On top of that, when this dies, exile it, and each player returns all creature cards from their graveyard back to their hand. Again, once we are set properly, we will have so much value, so much mana, so much cost reduction, your opponent's heads will spin, and you'll be able to go creature. All of a sudden, sacrifice this one. Creature. Yeah, it's going to be absolutely crazy. Glean Crawler is a great one as well, though. 6/6 with trample that costs 6 mana. Beginning of your end step, return to your hand all creature cards in your graveyard that put there from the battlefield this turn. Again, basically, hey, I blitz them out. I get value. Next turn, I blitz them out. I get value. What's not to love about that? Next up, tactic number 6, Wrenches. Yeah, we've got plenty of wrenches to throw on opponents' plans, including Foundation Breaker. We can evoke this out if we want to, or just, cast it at reduced cost thanks to our commander and other things as well. ETB, destroy target artifact or enchantment. Even bigger, though, Acidic Slime, 2/2 Death Touch. ETB, destroy target artifact, enchantment, or land. Warstorm Surge. Oh my goodness, game-ending value here. Enchantment for 6 mana in red. Whenever a creature control enters, it deals damage, yield its power to any target. Take out things here, there, and everywhere, and yes, burn and hate your opponent's faces. Butcher of Malakir. Oh my goodness, your opponent's faces will look very sad when this is in play. Whenever another creature control dies, each opponent sacrifices a creature. It's going to be impossible for them to have anything on the board, because all of a sudden you're like, okay, I blitz this out. Okay, I sacrifice it. Oh, your creatures are gone. Okay. Oh, by the way, I just blitzed like 5 creatures on my turn, so all your creatures are gone. They're all coming through. You're in big trouble. Deathbringer Regent, speaking of trouble, enters the battlefield. If you cast from your hand, there are 5 more other creatures in the battlefield. Destroy other creatures. Keep in mind, with the other kind of sacrifice effects too, and this kind of destroy effect, getting rid of your commander is actually not a bad thing. Replaying your commander actually makes it so that your other things cost even less, which is huge. But yeah, being able to board wipe on a creature, that is massive with this. Meteor Golem, much more simple. 3/3, ETB, destroy target non-land permanent opponent controls. A great card that can be even free at a certain point with this kind of a deck. Overseer of the Damned, 7 mana for a 5/5 flying demon. ETB, destroy a creature. On top of that, non-token creature opponent controls dies. Make a 2/2 black summon creature token. This can make us an army throughout the game in absolutely no time. Rampaging War Mammoth, a 9/7 with trample. That is huge. Or cycle it away and destroy X target artifacts. Yeah, do what you gotta do. Either way works great. Terrastodon, yet another great elephant for us. ETB, destroy up to 3 target non-creature permanents. Replace them with 3/3 elephants. Yeah, we can even do that with some of our own things if we actually want to do that. Again, taking our commander is actually a good thing sometimes. Or you just wipe out your opponents and be like, oh, cool, you get some 3/3s. By the way, I've got a 9/9 and even bigger creatures too. Woodfall Primus, another great one as well. 6/6 Trampler with Persist, ETB, destroy target non-creature permanent. Again, with that Persist, we're going to be getting that a second time as well, which is quite nice. And, you know, if they blitz, you actually have to keep this in play that next time too. Moving on, tactic number 7, ups and downs. Bastion Remembrance is a great card for this deck. ETB, make a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. And then also on top of that, whenever any of our creatures die, drain opponents. Each opponent loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. We're going to have a lot of creatures dying with all the blitzing, bringing things back, blitzing again. It's not to love about that. Falkrat Noble, whenever anything dies, any creature dies, target player loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. Counts our opponent's creatures as well, so do keep that in mind. Cardor is so much fun. ETB, basically, all of our opponent's creatures are goated, essentially. Have fun attacking each other, leaving yourself wide open for us as well. On top of that, whenever any attacking creature dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Yeah, if you got a free sacrifice outlet in play, you can actually take advantage of that even further with your own creatures. Poison Tip Archer, speaking of a sacrifice outlet and taking advantage of it, whenever a creature dies, each opponent loses 1 life. This counts any creature, not just your own. Vindictive Vampire, whenever creatures you control die, 1 damage each opponent and you gain 1 life. Psychosis Crawler, when you're drawing cards from, well, any of those things we talked about earlier, and including our commander's blitzing, hey, you're going to be draining opponents for every single card drawn, and this can be a big threat to power touch equal number of cards in your hand. Stalking Vengeance, it helps on the way out with this creature's 5/5 Hasty. Whenever a creature control dies, it deals damage equal to its power to target player or planeswalker, kind of like a reverse Warstorm Surge in a way. Verdant Sun's Avatar, speaking of a reverse Warstorm Surge, whenever another creature enters the battlefield to control, you gain life equal to that creature's toughness. You're going to pad your life total to oblivion. Your opponents will never be able to touch you with this. Next up, we've got some MDFCs that can really help us out. First up, Stomp. Sorcery for 2 mana in Gruul. Target creature control deals damage equal to its power target creature or planeswalker you don't control. Or, yeah, the backside is a land. Enters battlefield taps for 2 of our colors. Tingled Hedron only taps for 1 on the backside. That being said, it is a Mandork that can help us out as well. A 1/1 for 2, taps for a green mana. Bridgeworks Battle. This one is one that can actually enter the battlefield untapped for 3 life, and that's great. Or, +2/+2 to a creature. Fights up to 1 target creature you don't control, so that can be absolutely massive for us. Then there's Blood-Soaked Insight, a great way to get some value out of an MDFC. Again, the backside, enters battlefield taps for 1 of our 2 colors. It's going to cost 1 less for each life our opponents will have this turn, so that can just basically be, well, just 2 mana for us. Target opponent exiles the top 3 cards of their library until the end of their next turn. We can play those cards, and you're a fixed mana kind of thing. Basically, impulse draw 3 off an opponent. What's not to love about that? And with that, this episode is coming to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you. In the comments below, let me know your thoughts are on this episode. And of course, as always, thanks again, and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.